Episode 130, Wake and Rake Podcast. New faces aboard. Yes, Spencer Ward is back. Major League Baseball data and operations and contributor for the Dodgers beat. I should have asked you this before we started recording, Jake. This is just incredibly unprofessional on my part. It is Jake Ignazewski.
Yeah, you got it.
Wow, that was awesome. There's a reason we call him Iggy, because it's like Zydronis Ilgauskas. Like, it is a tough last name to pronounce. Yep. Jake Ignazewski, otherwise known as Iggy, filling in for Corey Fallon, social media producer with CBS Sports. Yes, I am your host, Danny Vietti. As usual, I am a little under the weather, so bear with me. I'm going to rely on Spence and Iggy here to kind of carry the show here. But Jake, say what's up to the Wake and Rakers. This is your first time on the show, but it's going to probably be far from your last, at least we hope.
How's it going, guys? Huge fan of the pod. Listen to you guys a ton, obviously, when, Danny, you and Will did it. Huge Red Sox fan if you're watching the video version, as you can see. So was a huge fan of Will Middlebrooks growing up. I actually got his autograph with the Portland Sea Dogs. So I knew him way back when. But I don't know how much we're going to talk about the Sox this episode. I don't know how much I really want to talk about the Sox, but really excited to talk some ball with you guys early in the season and ready to overreact a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty much, it's a great foreshadowing. Overreactions. We're not going to quite overreact, or at least we're not going to try to. Today's episode, believer or hater? Spence, by nature, just in general, not even necessarily baseball, are you a generally positive human, or are you a little bit of a hater?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I tried to ride that line right in the middle, but you got your days, your highs, your lows. I'm a little haterish, though, I would say.
Harsh. Okay. Iggy, how about yourself?
A little bit.
Yeah, I'd say that I'm a mix. I mean, especially early on in the season, I feel like this is when a lot of people just like overblow some of the situations, and it's tough to kind of do that. But once you get in the middle of the season, it's like, all right, can't overreact. Most teams, we see it, they sneak into the playoffs, especially the Red Sox lately. So it's one of those things where try to be patient and just like wait to see until everything unravels. But I'd say a mix. When guys are underperforming, I'm more of a hater. And then also, when I try to like be optimistic, try to spin it the positive way if there is things to be positive about, obviously.
Yeah, Red Sox fans are generally not optimistic by nature. That's typically how it goes. Middlebrooks always, one of the best quotes he ever gave me is, to succeed in Boston is perhaps the greatest treat that could ever come around for a baseball player, but to struggle in Boston is perhaps the largest, most taxing, daunting, heaviest burden that could possibly come around for a baseball player. So it's kind of the same way in Philly. It's kind of the same way in New York. It's definitely the West Coast, East Coast baseball thing. That's a real thing. The culture is definitely different. But let's get right into it.
Caleb Durbin got booed during the home opener. I was there. Like, we were 5 games in. It was crazy.
Do you boo, or like, is it? Here's my thing. I never boo professional athletes because I'm sitting in my seat
I don't boo.
with an IPA and popcorn in my hand. I don't have the physical ability that they do. Now, am I disappointed? Am I upset? Yes, but I never, ever... that sounds high horsey, okay? But I am not a booer of professional athletes. I'm just not. And dude, that's coming from a Sacramento Kings fan. I have plenty of reasons to boo these players. And that's just my choice. Not saying one's right, but not a booer.
Do we take a turn and start talking about the Kings? Or...
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Let's talk ABS, boys. ABS. Okay, so Iggy, you sent something my way last night as I was flying back from Final Four in Indianapolis, which, by the way, not a bad city. I wouldn't say anybody's should go out of their way to visit Indianapolis, Indiana, but it was a very good host site for the Final Four. We had a blast. That being said, on the flight back, Iggy, you kind of ran into some contention on Twitter. Who would have thought there's contention on Twitter? Who would have thought? The ABS system obviously has been a little bit controversial through the first couple weeks. Overall, it seems to be positive. Now, you sent me a photo, It was a Baltimore Orioles challenge. And basically, long story short, is they made the challenge. It was overturned, and it was originally called a ball. It was overturned to be called a strike. Now, if you look at the ABS, and of course you guys are not on, if you're not on YouTube and you're listening on our Spotify, on our Apple Podcast, you're not going to see this image. If you want to see the image, go on our YouTube, subscribe, do all the things. But if you look at the image, it is, talk about splitting hairs. This pitch challenge, the baseball is barely, just barely touching the edge of the strike zone. Now, the definition of the strike zone, according to MajorLeagueBaseball.com. This is what I found super interesting. Did you guys know that it has changed over the years by definition?
I didn't know that.
Okay. From 1988 to 1995, the strike zone went from the midpoint between the shoulders and the top of the uniform pants to the top of the knees, which is a bit confusing. I agree. From 1967 to 87, so before that time period, strike zone was from the batter's armpits to the top of the knees. 63 to 68, strike zone went from top of the batter's shoulders to the knees. Basically, where we're getting at here, in 1950 to 62, strike zone went from the batter's armpits top. It's changed over the years. Back in the 50s, it was armpits to knees, height-wise, strike zone. In the 60s, they changed it from the shoulders to the knees. Then they shrunk it again in the 70s. It went from armpits to knees. And then 80s and 90s, it went from midpoint between the shoulders and top of the uniform pants. And then this is what MajorLeagueBaseball.com says as well. The official strike zone is the area over home plate from the midpoint between a batter's shoulders and the top of the uniform pants, when the batter is in his stance and prepared to swing at a pitch ball, and a point just below the kneecap. So basically what that means, shoulders, kneecaps. That's your height. But what was fascinating to me is how much the strike zone, by definition, according to the Major League Baseball rulebook, has changed over the years. Now, the point of contention here is any piece of the baseball, if any piece of that baseball touches the strike zone, should it be called a strike? And by definition, according to Major League Baseball, if a part of the ball crosses over the home plate, it is considered a strike. If it crosses over that strike zone, it is considered a strike. Now, Iggy, I'll start with you. You disagreed a little bit. I'll give you the floor.
So it's one of those things where before this, that wouldn't have been a strike. Like it would have been like right on the corner. And if, they have the strike zone on the TV and people are, debating about it on Twitter, majority of people would say it's not in the zone. Like it's not in the strike zone. Like it doesn't matter if it's like touching it like the centimeter. And at the same time, I understand the other part of the discussion of we can't make this more complicated to where a certain percentage and it makes it more of room to be able to debate it and everything like that. But in my opinion, I think 50% of the ball should be within the zone. Like, I don't think it's that difficult to literally split it in half and then be able to show that on the ABS replay. Now, obviously, 49.5%, like that's going to create the debate even more. But I think this is something to where at the beginning of the season, this isn't much of a discussion. But if it's the final strike of a Game 7 of a playoff game or of a World Series game, I guarantee you this is going to be a massive debate. And probably, obviously, the losing team is going to be the one that is going to push for this point to be changed. And also at the same time, I feel like this is something, the more it happens, I feel like with it being the first year of ABS, I wouldn't be surprised if by year 5 we see it be changed or tweaked. Maybe not this specific thing, but I think things will be just like moved around to make it even more accurate.
So just to be clear, you want 50% of the baseball to touch the strike zone for it to be called a strike. That's your argument?
That's my argument.
Spence, what do you think?
I don't think 50% would ever happen. I think that's too much because the whole history of baseball, there's been pitchers' pitches, hitters' pitches, I guess. But a pitcher's pitch is you're barely clipping that corner of the strike zone, and I understand that you can't even tell that the baseball's really even touching the zone. That doesn't make sense to be called a strike, in my opinion. Also, like
Right.
logically, you're kind of thinking you're like, how are you even supposed to hit that baseball? It doesn't totally make sense. But I don't see a world where you kind of make that make sense. I don't know how you can turn it to make it a percentage of the baseball that makes it be a strike. I know there's ways they can do it and maybe correctly, but then you're messing with the fine lines of too many things, and it gets even more complicated than it already is. And I understand like it's literally a feather hair, like it's not even touching the strike zone and it's a strike, which is bonkers, but I don't know, it's crazy.
Here's my thing is maybe Spencer, you would know, you work for Major League Baseball, you would maybe have an idea about this. How accurate is the ABS system? Like, is this 99.99%? It's absolutely correct, or is there a little bit of gray area?
I think it's pretty accurate. I see them before the games going out to the field, and they're setting the device on home plate, and it is like censoring like the center of the strike zone, and they have all these machines and stuff up in the press box and I don't fully know what it is because I've never watched them do it, but I see them doing it, I guess, but I don't know what exactly they're doing in a way. But I see them, they're like turning it on, and they're there hours before the game making sure it is all accurate. So I do know that, and I talk to them all the time during spring training and everything, and the Arizona Fall League, and I know it is very accurate. I've seen them test it and everything, and it's pretty spot on.
Let me ask you this then: how accurate is it for it to be a strike? It has to be when it's when the ball is crossing the home plate. Like, that is when it is considered either a strike or a ball. In other words, like, let's say Clayton Kershaw's throwing his 12-6 curveball. Okay, it starts out as a ball and it falls into the strike zone. Obviously, it only falls into the strike zone if it crosses home plate as a strike. So my question to you is the ABS system taking into account where the ball is crossing home plate?
So I heard they moved it back a little bit, actually. That way you're not getting a curveball that hits the dirt called a strike.
Right.
So now it is not the front of home plate, it is now the center of home plate.
Okay.
So now it's not technically when it crosses, yes, it's now the center.
Here's the deal, Iggy. I think your point is, I get it. I would say by definition, and I am super biased here because I am a pitcher and I want the strike zone to be larger. I want more action too from the player. I think our strike zone has shrunk over time. It has shrunk, it has shrunk, it has shrunk, it has shrunk to the point where it's just gotten a little bit too egregious for me. Like Juan Soto, for example, one of the best players in today's game. Swing the bat, kid. You know, like, I don't think players are swinging at the rate that they used to anymore because on-base percentage and plate discipline is obviously more incentivized now, too. There's a lot of things that go into it. But I think one thing that you can incentivize hitters to swing more and up their swing percentages is make the strike zone not larger, but I think some umpires over time, like, you know, some guys don't give top of the zone. Some guys don't give the edges. Some guys don't get the bottom. And at least this is an objective strike zone, and we know the rules in place. So now, if we know if that ball touches the strike zone in any way, in any capacity, it is right. The rules are in place. Here you go. At least it's not subjective. It is a completely objective system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I've enjoyed the ABS, and I think it's, you know, brought a lot of great things to the game, like obviously a lot more accuracy. But this was just one of those things that I noticed, and I figured I would pose the question. I ended up making a video about it. There was half people who were like, yeah, there needs to be a percentage, and I kind of put out there, like, I think there just needs to be like a open-ended percentage, but then like once I thought about it a little bit more, like how are you going to be able to equate 10%, 20%? Like you can easily split the ball in half and that's 50%. So that's kind of how I came up with that aspect of it. But I just think that I wanted to bring it up before it's one of those things that is, the defining factor in one of the biggest moments of a team's season. And I think that will come up at some point when ABS, is in effect.
Oh, it's inevitable. ABS will determine maybe a game, maybe a division, maybe a playoff series. It absolutely will happen. And by determine, it never comes down to one pitch. There's always a play that could have been made in the 6th inning. But to your point, guarantee you there will be a final strike call that was challenged, overturned to a ball, vice versa. It will be a factor without a doubt. I thought this was interesting. 7 ejections already, all managers. No players have gotten ejected yet. Now, it wasn't due to ABS, but already through 13 games or so, 7 ejections. That seemed like kind of a high number. Vitello got his first toss. Who else? Let me see here.
Cora did.
Cora got tossed.
John Schneider last night.
Craig Albanese.
Yeah. Schneider really tore into the umpire. I mean, he was face to face. Like it was.
I think the other thing too is some of the check swings, because did they change how like that was being evaluated? Because that's kind of what happened with Trevor's story and why Cora went like absolutely bonkers. I've seen it happen in a few other games.
Yeah,
it's funny, man. The check swing has never been talk about. Like the strike zone at least has a definition on the rule book. Yeah. Check swing has never truly been defined. That's one of the quirkiest. What do you mean?
They're testing that out in the minor leagues for. That's like the next ABS. They're checking check swings.
Is that right?
Yeah, they were doing that in the Arizona Fall League this last year.
I would be for that. So if the
it's very
barrel crosses, if the bat barrel crosses halfway through the home plate, basically it's a swing.
I think so. Yeah. Or if it's fully like parallel crossing the plate, then it's a swing. I think it's a little bit further than you would think.
So what you're saying is if we had this system in place, the Giants in 2021 would have toppled the Dodgers because Wilmer Flores did not swing the bat. Spencer.
No comment. Darren Ruff swung.
Typical Dodger fan. All right, let's move on, boys. Coolest things that I saw from this last week, and then we'll do a little roundtable. This one actually applies to you, Jake. The Red Sox already doing sell the team chants? Are you kidding me? Brother, you were in the stands. Give me your perspective, because you were in the stands. Your video went super viral. Sell the team chants for for an organization that is top 5 in payroll. Is it fair?
It was loud. Like, you heard it on the broadcast the night prior, and I posted a video about it. It was like, like the 3 people that chanted it. And then, like, I was there, and it was the loudest that it's ever been. I actually hit up one of the Red Sox beat reporters who's been on the beat for, like, over 20 years and asked him, like, have you ever heard this before? And he said no. He thinks, like, a big part of it is, the Dave Portnoy push of, the red nose, like John Henry shirts and everything like that. And he's getting involved in the team. And, he's kind of like pushing this narrative of sell the team. But is it fair? I think this is one of those things where like the frustration is boiling over at this point with Mookie getting traded, them not signing him to an extension, Bogarts obviously leaving, trading Devers. Like, it's just like all of these homegrown talents that, are just leaving. And then, last year they made the playoffs. It finally felt like, all right, now we go. We've waited 4 years to actually be able to have a winning product. And now, they had the worst record in baseball, a day or two ago. So as you even mentioned too, like Boston sports just in general, like we have insane standards, like just like way over the top, but that's what you sign up for when you become the owner of the Red Sox. Now, shout out to the Brewers broadcast, because they caught John Henry's reaction. And, I'm no like John boy, I can't really read lips, but it's pretty obvious. He was like, oh, sell the team, and then smiled and like kind of laughed, which obviously that's not going to make fans any happier, but they're showing up.
Here's my thing, man. Like, it's such first world problems that you guys are dealing with. Like, you guys have had a top 10 Major League Baseball payroll for every single season seemingly since John Henry has owned the team. And so, like, it's almost disrespectful to teams and organizations that truly should be pushing this. Like, your Bob Nuttings, your A's owner, I'm drawing a blank on
John Fisher.
John Fisher.
Miami Marlins. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Marlin. Like, it's almost disrespectful to them because it's all becoming one conversation where it's like, no. Like, if you want to say fire Craig Breslow, okay, I get on board with that. Like, maybe he hasn't held up his end of the bargain. He hasn't been doing a good enough job in that seat. But to say sell the team for a team that has had top 10 payroll seemingly every single year, and the Red Sox were in the playoffs last year, and we're 10 games in. It just feels, it feels not applicable. It feels a little too jumping to a point. Like, it's too large of a bridge to cross, in my opinion. Like, there are real teams out there that should be pushing that narrative. The Red Sox are not one. It's not a lack of spending.
One thing, right. I agree. One thing I did want to mention that I thought was interesting that I didn't even realize as a diehard fan, Tony Maserati, I'm not a huge fan of, like, you know, Boston sports radio and like all those talking heads, but I found it interesting that he brought up that they haven't had a back-to-back winning season since 2019. Like, I've been a fan. Like,
you mean when they won the World Series? Oh, no, it's 2018. I'm sorry, I apologize. But they had the number 2 payroll in baseball, though.
But like you said, they've had like a top payroll in the league, and they just haven't been able to have back-to-back winning seasons. And so far right now, like, it's not trending that way. Like, they obviously could finish that way, but it's just the vibes are just like so down. And you even saw after the Red Sox won last night, Ceddanne Rafaela just like thank God we finally won. But yeah, it's such first world problems. It's crazy.
Meanwhile, the A's are playing in a minor league ballpark. Already relocated. It's just different. Another thing I saw. Trevor Bauer signed with the Long Island Ducks. Thought that was mildly interesting. 10-year MLB veteran, obviously has been in his past suspended multiple times by Major League Baseball. Went over to Japan. He is the newest member of the Long Island Ducks. He will be pitching as their opening night starter April 21st. Interesting. Mexican League, he also pitched in. The Trop, I thought, looked phenomenal, guys. Obviously, Hurricane Harvey, I think it was at the time, just completely destroyed the roof, and they had to basically renovate it and spend a little bit more money, probably more money than they wanted to, but it was needing to happen. And they had their home opener and home opening series this last weekend. I thought it looked great. Like, it's maybe still not a top 15 stadium by any means, but I thought the lighting in there was like brighter. I don't know if they made any adjustments to the broadcast, but the Trop looked good on screen, and I've heard nothing but positive feedback. Spence, did you see any of the footage from down in Tampa? Because it looked good to me.
The lighting looked way better. I feel like the Trop always looked like dark and eerie and just like a weird place, but it actually looked bright and like it's Florida, like should be a nice place to play baseball, and it looked way better than it used to. I was pretty shocked, actually.
Yeah, I thought it looked good. And then the last thing I had for the best things I saw from this last week were Angels games are apparently just electric. I mean, everything's happening at Angel Stadium right now. Joe Adell robbed 3 home runs in a game that finished at 1-0. That was the final score, was 1-0. And he robbed 3 home runs. Ridiculous, including the last one being probably the best one out in right field, where he ended up in the right field stands. That was Joe Adell. Took a while. We talked about this on the last episode. All these fans want these top prospects to just hit the ground running when they're 20 years old, 21 years old. And if they're not, they're a bust. People develop differently. Aaron Judge was 25, 26 years old when he first debuted with the Yankees. Like, everybody matures differently. Maybe they hit their peak when they're 20. Maybe they hit their peak when they're 27. Don't give up on these kids when they're just 20, 21 years old. Joe Adell is the perfect example. And then we saw last night the Jorge Soler, Reynaldo Lopez, the big brawl. So that was in Angel Stadium too. So I don't know what is in the air down there in Orange County, but entertaining product to say the least. Move on to no, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Actually, coolest things that you guys saw from this last week. What do you got? A little round table. We'll start with you, Iggy.
So I had a couple of things that you mentioned too, like with the brawl. Like, honestly, like last night, just going into the Red Sox game with the Wilson Contreras stuff, I was thinking that there was going to be a brawl then, and then there wasn't. And it honestly had me thinking, it's been a while since we've gotten one of those like full-on smackdowns. Like, obviously, like, not like promoting violence in baseball, but it makes it like way more entertaining. And I feel like old school, like, they would really like throw haymakers, and now we just see like tweets like, bench is clearing, like, no way, like, you see the like bullpen guys like running out, and like everybody's just like talking crap to each other, like no punches were thrown. But this one, like, I don't remember the last time we've seen guys like full on like square up. And so like just in general, like some of the old school aspects of the game starting to sneak in, one with a big brawl, then the John Schneider like really getting into the ump's face. Like we see like managers obviously get pissed, but his face was beaten red. He was like almost touching the ump's nose. Like it seemed like an old school, like really getting upset. And then also just like a small thing that you really never ever see when pitchers come off the mound. This afternoon, Sonny Gray, a little bit interesting, had a little bit of a hat tip to the crowd, gave him a little bit of an ovation walking off the field. Usually just see pitchers put their head down, just focus on walking to the plate or walking to the dugout. A little bit of a hat tip. So some of the old school stuff sneaking in.
Vince, how about you?
I was gonna say Joe Adell too. I mean, that was insane. That guy had the game of his life out there.
Yeah.
But the Wilson Contreras thing too, that was wild. His quotes after the game saying, "You hit us, and I'm gonna take one of you guys out," and like he's ready to fight right now. And that was
It hit him. It barely clipped
I know, it
him.
barely like clicked his elbow, and I mean the Sox are struggling. He's trying to get the boys fired up. You understand it. Very funny. His brother's the one catching.
Yeah, his brother's
That's
on.
very
his brother's
funny.
in the spot. That's
And then
crazy.
he goes and slides. He takes out David Hamilton. He was just on the Sox last year. Like, it's a very strange situation there. The guys all know each other, and it's very funny. And then last night was insane. That was Ronaldo Lopez has a baseball in his hand. And he's swinging at Jorge Soler, and like, if he wasn't wearing a helmet and he made contact with his head, that is going to hurt. That is, I think if he makes contact there, you are suspended for way longer than what he got.
Yeah, 7
One
games.
thing with that though, that was really interesting is the Braves manager, Walt Weiss, is the guy who tackled Jorge Soler. He's like 66. And I was watching something else earlier, and they were saying that he like does taekwondo and everything like that. So he was trained and ready to go for that.
And Walt was the bench coach when Soler was in Atlanta, too.
Yep.
So, like, these guys all know each other. I mean, Contreras, the brothers, Weiss, Soler. I'm all for it.
You had
man.
Acuna and Albies going over to try to calm him down.
Yeah. To argue your point, Iggy, we do absolutely advocate violence on this show.
Kind of.
Every little bit of it. It's very good for baseball.
Yeah, got to get some entertainment value.
I was hoping
And finally,
for a brawl and wasn't expecting it not to be the Red Sox and Brewers.
Yeah, the AL and all stuff's kind of weird, right? And then quirky stat of the week: Sandy Alcantara has more complete games than 26 MLB teams since 2019. How about that? Hold on, I'll give you the list, Spencer. You give me a funny look. Let me break it down for you. What?
Sounds accurate.
Sandy Alcantara has 13 complete games since 2019. 13. The only teams with more teams, not players, is the Phillies, White Sox, and Astros. Other than that, 26 other teams have fewer complete games than Sandy Alcantara, including the Tampa Bay Rays, who have 2 complete games since 2019. Alcantara has 13. A little bit different down there in Tampa. Obviously, they don't let their starters roll as much as other teams do. Alcantara is a blast from the past because he is like the one starter in this new era of baseball where they're on the pitch counts and they don't pitch deep in the ball games anymore. Alcantara is still one of my favorite pitchers to watch because he really is like watching early 2000s, 1990s baseball. Keeps his pitch count down. Yes, is still a strikeout guy. I think he has a career 9+ strikeout per 9, but he's a guy that pitches to contact, produces weak contact. Without a doubt, one of my favorite pitchers to watch. So pretty remarkable stat. All right, we will transition into Believer or Hater. We will take a short break, catch our breaths. Believer or Hater coming up next. Speaking of the Marlins, Spencer had this great idea. We're doing Believer or Hater on this next segment. And I had the Marlins on this list. We were just talking a little Sandy Alcantara. Spencer made a great point. I'll just give you the floor, dude. Let's talk Marlins. Before we even get into believer or hater, you had a little take on Sandy Alcantara. I kind of want you to fill the people in.
Sandy's been the horse for them since he got called up, really. That dude is throwing 230 innings. He has won a Cy Young. He's always been great as long as he's healthy. This last year doesn't count. We'll scratch that one. Come back from injury. He should lead that Marlins team, this up and coming, very fun to watch. They've got the offense. They're all growing together. He should absolutely lead that team. There's been trade talks with him for the past 4 years or so because everyone wants starting pitching. It's so valuable. And I feel like we're at that point where if he was going to get traded, he would have gotten traded already. And I feel like, as of now, I feel like he's going to be a Marlin, at least until his contract runs out. And just kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, he's 30 years old this year, so still plenty young enough.
Yeah.
He's only making $17 million this year, which is just an absolute steal. He has a club option after this season, which would pay him $21 million in 2027. Then he becomes an unrestricted free agent. So in today's era, $21 million for a front-of-the-line starter is a steal. Absolute steal. So Miami, who is sitting at 6-5, and they still don't have, they're still not at full health. They still don't have Kyle Stowers, who was their MVP offensively last season. The lineup is like pretty nice. Like Jacob Marcy has turned into an everyday, very solid player. Xavier Edwards, not going to put the ball out of the ballpark, but a high on base, high batting average guy. Agustin Ramirez, seemingly a great return with that big trade. Owen Casey, off to a decent start. I mean, it's really the rotation that's going to guide this team, though. Like you said, like it's Alcantara, it's Yuri Perez who could become a Cy Young candidate. If Max Meyer can be that top 5 prospect that we expected him to be,
need him to take that step.
Need him to take that step, without a doubt. I mean, they seemingly had enough confidence in him to ship out Edward Cabrera before the season too. They wanted to give Max Meyer an opportunity, So what stuck out to me about Miami is Peter Bendix came over from Tampa Bay a couple years ago, and I've said it before on the show. I just respect Tampa and their ability to find lightning in a bottle in the weeds players better than anybody in the league. Like they get seemingly Tampa gets guys off the streets who throw sidearm, underhand around the back, and they throw 98 miles an hour every single. Like it's ridiculous where Tampa is able to find these players, and they have 0.76 ERAs by the end of the season. It's just what Tampa does. So what stuck out to me about Miami is Peter Bendix, president of baseball operations for the Marlins, came over from Tampa. Opponents are hitting 151 against the relievers this year against Miami. 151 against all of their pitchers. Opponents are hitting 189. So, like, this is what Peter Bendix does. Is he a guy that's going to go have a massive payroll? No. And that's not what Miami is. And it wasn't what Tampa was. But Bendix, like him or hate the operation, because the operation is an owner that is not willing to spend money. Don't love that aspect. But with what Peter Bendix has to work with, he is able to find talent, especially in that bullpen, as good as anybody in the league. Miami's doing it. Jake, what do you think about Miami? Let's just get into it, boys. Are you a believer or are you a hater on the Miami Marlins?
I'm a believer in the Marlins. I had the guys listed down that you guys have mentioned. I think they got a lot of really young talent. Even when I went to a game, like there was a lot of energy around that stadium. I think especially from like what we've heard early on with Peter Bendix, like if they're good at the deadline, like they're not going to sell, they're going to buy. So I think this team really just needs to be able to push that. They need to push the front office to be able to buy and actually invest in this team, because a lot of people forget, like, it's not going to the playoffs multiple times over the last few years. Like, they've been around. Like, they were super hot at the end of last year. Like, this is a really good young team. They might not have like the superstars that everybody knows. Like they have the Kyle Stowers, they have Sandy Alcantara, but like some of these other guys like Marcy, Casey, like they're gonna have to make a name for themselves this year. And I think especially with all those young guys together, like it's just lightning in the bottle. So I think they could be a team that could be very similar to what we saw happen with the Reds last year, where if everything goes right and they actually invest in this team during the deadline, we could see them sneak into a wild card.
Iggy is a believer. Spence, what do you think?
Have to believe in the Marlins. I think they're just too talented overall. Like you may look at their like roster and stuff and maybe not love it, but like if you really look at each individual player, it's hard not to love them. They're a very talented group, and I think they could easily sneak into the second wild card. It's not too crazy to say, I don't think.
Yeah, it's just so many spots available. That's why I worry about Miami. I am a believer, relatively speaking. I think they're going to be in the playoff race. Do I think they sneak in? I think they fall short. I just think there's too many teams in the National League that are going to be vouching for those spots. I mean, I don't see where they fit in. I mean, right now you look at the playoff picture, albeit very, very early. Dodgers, Reds, and Braves at the top of their divisions. After that, Brewers, we shouldn't even be talking divisions at this point, but we are. Whatever. Yeah. We're doing it. We're here. Brewers, Pirates, Cardinals.
My bad. I do think that they will trade Sandy at the deadline, though, if they're like 500.
Even if they're in contention, that would be a disappointment.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. They were really pushing to try to trade him this past deadline, and it came like so close. And I think they were really just trying to like get the value from what he's showing this year and what the pitcher that he actually is. But obviously teams were like, he's a 5 ERA right now. He's coming off of an injury. Like, we're not going to give you ace type of a return. But I do think, I don't know, that's just like how Peter Bendick and like the Marlins operate. I feel like if they're 500 and, you know, maybe there's some injuries or whatever, I do think that they will trade him.
And if they do, this is why fans don't show up to that Miami ballpark. That's exactly.
Did you hear what he said?
Sandy?
Yeah. Sandy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of crazy.
What?
After he said, like, there was fans aren't here, but like, you know, really. But also at the same time, like it was, what was it, like a Wednesday at 1 p.m. Like I hate when people make those like. I understand it from his standpoint, but when like fans are there or reporters, like nobody's in the stands, it's like, all right, people work.
Yeah. He's like, fans aren't here. We still love them though.
People were shitting on the Twins for having an empty ballpark last Wednesday or Thursday. It's fucking 20 degrees in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's Minnesota, dude. That's so cold.
And that fan base has been showing up for years. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have an attendance problem, and people are shitting on the Twins. It's like, dude, like, let's wait till May and June before we're shitting on these attendance issues. You know, it's so early.
Yeah.
Miami, though, it's a dome, okay? But there is an ownership, payroll issue. Like, if they do trade Sandy, that is why fans don't show up. Same reason the Athletics and their fans weren't showing up. They go and buy the jerseys. They get all gung-ho about their players, and they get traded away, and it's just a recurring cycle. But I'm a believer in the Marlins, and being a playoff contender, I don't think they sneak in. I just think there are too many teams in that National League to compete. Speaking of National League teams who could be competing, Cincinnati Reds, 8-3. The fifth best ERA in baseball at 2.82. And that's really what's been powering this team so far. Offensively, they're not doing anything crazy. It's been the pitching for the Reds so far that has seemingly stayed healthy despite not having Hunter Green part of the fold yet either. Rotation-wise, Chase Burns has been very good. 2 starts, a .82 ERA, 16 strikeouts, 11 innings. Andrew Abbott, All-Star last year, he's been very good. 3.18 ERA. Brady Singer, part of the fold. Brett Lauder, part of the fold. Brandon Williamson, part of the fold. It's been that bullpen and starting pitching that has been able to guide the Reds to this hot start. Spencer, I'll start with you. Are you a believer or are you a hater on the Cincinnati Reds?
I want to believe. I just don't think I do. I like their pitching. I hate that Hunter Green is hurt. Lodolo always seems to be hurt. There's a lot of talent there. I was in on the Reds the past few years, and for some reason, I'm just not as confident as I was. I want to be, but I'm not.
They're very injury prone, starting pitching wise.
Yeah.
That's my concern. I am also a hater. Until this rotation can show me health through a 162 game season, I don't believe in them. And I love Ellie. I love McLean. Suarez. Like, I think the lineup actually is sneaky good.
Mm-hmm.
But the rotation, when healthy, is one of the best in the league. They just haven't been able to stay healthy. And so I agree with you. I am a Cincinnati hater. Iggy, what do you think?
Yeah, I had him as a hater. It was tough for me as well. Like, just the thought of like Hunter Green coming back in July or something like that to give them that boost. It's tough to like not like dream of that. But I think especially with how young this team is still, and I don't know what happened to Spencer Steer and Matt McLean like 2 years ago. They were the reason why this team was like ridiculous, and they've kind of just like disappeared. Obviously, Sal Stort like is really coming into his own, like one of the best players on that team. Eugenio Suarez, you thought that he was going to be able to give them that power boost that they really needed. But I just think overall, like they got so lucky being able to sneak into the playoffs last year. I don't know if they're going to get the same luck this year.
What about Noelvi Marte? It's like the number, 2 prospect in baseball or something like that at one point. He came over from Seattle in the big trade for Ketel Marte. I mean, he had the PED suspension, 80 games in 2024. That obviously set him back. And yeah, I agree with you. It's like the Reds had all these young players we're so excited about. It just kind of feels like they haven't quite hit the ground running. Quite like, similar to what the Marlins have right now, except the Marlins are hitting their stride, and it seems like the Reds have just kind of been coasted. Tyler Stevenson, at one point, we were hyped. We were like, holy shit, this a catcher that can hit too? Yeah, this guy's legit. Stevenson has struggled hitting the ball ever since his rookie season. So we are haters in Cincinnati. Come at us. At me. Colorado Rockies, 5-6. Who would have believed it? They didn't win their 5th game last year until April 30th. These are not your same Colorado Rockies. It's all relative, boys. When we talk believer or hater, we're not necessarily saying, are you a playoff contender or not? It's just, do you believe in this roster? Do you believe in this direction? Do you believe in this team? It's all relative. And for the Colorado Rockies, the bar is very, very low. So, Iggy, we'll start with you. Are you a believer or are you a hater for the Colorado Rockies?
I'm a hater, but I think they'll be better than they were last year. I don't think that's like a crazy... like, you don't got to do much to be able to do that. But I think we are seeing some of their young players start to perform well. Some of their like resurgent players like Mickey Moniak is continuing to become a really good player. I'm a hater just because of what that team is, but I am very fascinated to see how this front office continues to build this team with the Moneyball guy up top.
It's a good point.
That's what do you think?
A hater, but I want to say a believer that they can put a decent product on the field. And also with their starting rotation, it's a bunch of dudes who should probably just get traded at the deadline.
Yeah.
So if you can be a believer that they will make the right decisions this year, because they never even do that. They would just keep their players, let them walk in free agency, and just have a competent product and make the decisions that make your team better in the future. That is what I want to be a believer in.
Are you a believer in Paul DePodesta, a.k.a. Jonah Hill and Moneyball?
Yeah.
I mean, he's Jonah. For those that don't know, Paul DePodesta, he's president of baseball ops for the Rockies. I'm not saying they're off to it's only been 11 games here, guys, but again, it took them till April 30th to win 5 games last year. They've already won 5 games. They are on pace to be close to a 500 team. It's early, I know.
It's Rocktober.
I'm a believer. I'm a believer in the direction of this team. I like the narrative around the Rockies. It seemed like in years past, it's like, oh, we're going to try to make the playoffs. Like, hey, come to the ballpark. We're going to be contenders. And meanwhile, I was like, dude, come on. Like, let's set the bar a little bit lower. Like, you don't have the roster, especially when you have the Dodgers and Padres and Giants and Diamondbacks in your division. Let's restructure this narrative. This year, if you look at, like, their social media accounts and their official team website, it's like they're embracing a rebuild. And I think that matters. It's like that is having a direction. When you have a false narrative, it's like it's hard to get guys to believe in that direction. It's like, hey, let's go out and win the division. These kids are smart. These guys, they know they're not as good as the Los Angeles Dodgers. Nobody is, but especially the Rockies. They are not as good as the Los Angeles Dodgers. But if you change that narrative to, hey, guys, we're building something here. It might take a year. It might take 2 years. But believe in it, embrace it, and let's go get it. You can get more guys to follow that pathway. And so I'm a believer in the Colorado Rockies, not necessarily to be a contender this year, but I'm a believer in their direction. Fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like how Paul DePodesta has like really kind of thought of how they can take advantage of that ballpark. I feel like pitching is obviously always an issue there, and it's crazy that the GMs, well, it's not crazy because they just like promote from within, so everybody has like the same just like brainwashed mindset of like, yeah, it's the same ballpark as everywhere. Like, no, like you need to try and use those advantages, like change things up, do things a little bit different. And also, like, Ethan Holiday isn't up, Charlie Condon isn't up, like, Zach Veen isn't up. He was jacked, gained like 40 pounds, like, coming into the season. So, they got a lot of young guys coming up. One thing I also wanted to mention, too, that was kind of funny. We talked about, like, nobody showing up to the Marlins games. I don't know if you guys saw this comment by Troy Johnston. He essentially said, like, I'm walking around Miami. Nobody cares about this team. Nobody's wearing these jerseys. But when you go to Denver, everybody like wears the jerseys. Everybody believes in what we're doing. I kind of saw that. It's like, dude, get off your high horse. Like, we're not talking about like the Dodgers or like a top team. Like, you guys just had almost historically the worst record in baseball. Like, what are we talking about?
I actually root for Colorado though, because to his point, he was basically saying like, this is a baseball town. It is. I don't want to say it's a baseball town, but like they do have a good fan base. That ballpark, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Coors Field. Phenomenal. Beautiful. Great ballpark. And I root for this team because a lot of teams like Miami, the Athletics, the White Sox,
Tampa.
A lot of times they lose a lot of games because they don't invest into a roster. Colorado, it's almost worse. They actually try. Like they actually try to spend money and they still suck ass. Like they got Chris Bryant. They extended Arenado before they had traded him. They extended Kyle Freeland. They're not getting the Otanis of the world, but they at least, like, their payroll is usually middle of the pack, 18th, 19th. They're far from the bottom. So I always root for teams that at least try to spend a little bit of money. They're not doing it well, clearly, but nonetheless, we move on. Let's move over to same division, but a different part of the country, Bay Area. San Francisco Giants, 4-8 start. They're just not hitting the ball out of the yard right now. 4 home runs, by far the least in Major League Baseball. And they're not getting on base. A 281 on base percentage for the Giants. Just 28 walks this year at second least in Major League Baseball. The lineup isn't getting it done. Spencer, I feel it's only fair to toss it to the Dodger fan to ask if you are a believer or a hater of the San
I was going to
Francisco
let you take the reins on this one.
I mean, I can answer you. I believe that they are a formidable team. I don't believe in them being a World Series contender. I don't think they have the horses. I think the mistake that was made with this Giants front office is they basically gave the keys to Matt Chapman to be this face of the franchise. And I think Matt Chapman's a phenomenal defensive player, phenomenal character guy. I want him on my team. I don't think he's a face of the franchise player. I think he's a very good complementary player. Now, they went and got Rafael Devers, who is now seemingly the face, but he's not getting it done with the bat right now. So, but I think that stunted their growth as an organization is when they basically said, all right, Matt Chapman, you're going to lead us to the promised land. It's like, no, like that's way too high of an expectation to place on a gold glove, platinum glove defensive guy, but a guy that hits 230 and strikes out at a 20% clip, So to answer your question, I'm a believer in them being a formidable team. I am a hater in that I don't believe this is a World Series caliber team.
I think it'd be a wild card team. I mean, I still think they're a decent ball club. They're The offense needs to click. They do have a ton of streaky players.
Yes.
The pitching still needs some help. I mean, if this team is firing on all cylinders, I think it's a pretty good team. Maybe not like a great team. Like it's a good team though. Like they've got a lot of names on that roster. It's just you got Chapman, you got Adames, you got Rafi, it's a lot of streaky players, and you're asking Logan Webb to hold a lot of the rotation, and I don't know. It's tough, especially with the division they're in, but I see a world where they could still finish second.
You mean
I think they're just so streaky.
Maybe. Yeah. No, it's a good point. They kind of remind me of Seattle offensively. Like if all things go well, that's a good offense. But because they're so streaky, if they're all slumping at the wrong time, I mean, it's a disaster. It's a complete disaster because you said they're streaky. Seattle last year caught fire at the right time. If San Francisco, if these guys could catch fire at the right time, sure, I believe in that.
I like that. I can see how them in Seattle last year. That makes sense.
Good rotation. Iggy, I always say the San Francisco Giants are just the Red Sox of the West. What do you think?
So I'm a hater. I completely agree with you guys that they have the talent. Like when you look at the names, when you look at the roster, it's like this team should be good. But especially when we saw last year when Rafi went over, like he was supposed to make that team much better. And then for a month and a half, they were the worst team in baseball. And then they kind of tried to like climb back a little bit. But it just seems like from what we're seeing, especially from the early parts of the Tony Vitello era, like this streakiness isn't going to stop. And he already said that there's already been 3 incidences. Like we're 12 games into the season. There's already been 3 instances in the clubhouse. Like, I don't know how that is so much of an issue. Like, I understand, like, there's going to be some bumps in the roads of a guy who's coming from college to the big leagues. Like, he's still got to build that camaraderie. Like, I get it. But, like, at the same time, like, if there's already this many issues, like, what are we going to be talking about in July and August? And it could get better. But at the same time, like, if you're starting this way, you're just starting the string of just like the ups and downs, kind of like we've seen over the last few years from the Giants.
It's a lot of the same. I agree. I'll say this much. I said this before the season. I'm a believer in Tony Vitello. I think this is a newer, younger energy, exactly what this organization needed. It needed some new juice. Now, with that being said, not putting Daniel Susac in the lineup after he started his career 7 for 7 or 7 for 8 or something ridiculous like that. He didn't have him in the lineup Wednesday after he went 3 for 4 the night before with a triple. And they asked him, and they said, okay, why is Daniel Susac not in the lineup? And he said, well, Patrick Bailey's our guy. Okay, that's fine. You can put Patrick Bailey behind us in the squat at catcher, but DH him. You have the option to DH. He's your hottest hitter. You don't know when this bat's going to get hot like this again. You have to put your hottest bats in the lineup. So it's going to be a transition period for Vitello. But the questions remain. It's like, how long does the transition period last? Because, before you know it, you blink and it's June. Before you know it, you blink and it's like, shit, we're out of contention. We got to ship them off. It's one of those things.
I also feel like with him, real fast, like and it's part of just learning how to be an MLB manager, like, He needs to learn how to just be able to talk to like the media 3 times a day. Like I've already seen so many times where he's put his foot in his mouth like this early. Like he literally compared Rafael Devers to Tiger Woods a day or 2 after Tiger Woods got his DUI. It's like, read the room, dude. And there's just been multiple other instances where he's just looked like he's an amateur MLB manager. And I understand like there's going to be those growing pains, but like I feel like he just needs to like remind himself like the seat that he's in. Like it's not like he didn't just come from one of the top college programs in the country and had cameras in his face and microphones in his face and everything like that. So
are you claiming that the media in Knoxville, Tennessee is different than that of San Francisco, California? Are we getting political here? Oh boy. No way. Knoxville, Tennessee. Shocking. Let's move over to the American League. Los Angeles Angels 6-6. Unfortunately, Mike Trout hasn't gotten off to the hot start in the second week as he did in the first week. He's come back to life a little bit. But the Angels at 6-6, we talked about Joe Adell already. 6-6 is impressive to me because they've played the Astros, Cubs, Mariners, and Braves to start the season. So yeah, 6-6 is like, okay, that's 500. Pretty tough schedule to start the year. Now, offensively, they really struggle with the bats. Second worst batting average in Major League Baseball, 132 strikeouts, the most in baseball. Offensively, a lot of swing and miss in that lineup. For that reason, I'm a hater. What say you, Spence?
It's the Angels, so I'm a hater.
Yeah.
They're just the same team every year.
Yeah,
Yep.
well,
Completely agree.
I kind of forgot.
Sorry
Kurt
to be on the
Suzuki
negative
was their
side.
manager. I completely forgot Kurt Suzuki was their manager.
On a
Yeah,
one-year
that's one
deal.
thing that I did want to mention is he's on a 1-year deal, and the GM is also in the last year of his contract. So it's like one of those things, like, the players aren't stupid. Like, they understand that this is like literally a make or break year for the top 2 people in the organization outside of the owner. So, like, you either make it work or you don't. And like you said, Spence, like, it's classic Angels.
Yeah.
So we're haters across the board with the Angels.
Yeah.
Shout out Jose Soriano. 3 games started, 20 innings, a .45 earned run average.
Damn.
Same division, Texas Rangers, 6-5. Well, like a few years removed from when they hoisted the trophy. And yeah, another tough schedule for them. 6-5. They played the Phillies, the Orioles, the Reds, and the Seattle Mariners. So I've been a believer in the Rangers for a couple of years now. They disappointed me last year. But they're at 6-5 despite Nathan Eovaldi pitching horrendously. He's been legitimately probably the worst starting pitcher in baseball to start this season. But the rest of their rotation is keeping them alive. It's Mackenzie Gore, Jack Leiter, Jacob deGrom, Kumar Rocker. Spence, you had Jack Leiter as one of your Cy Young candidates this year. So clearly that's proven
I'm not
true.
wrong.
2.45 ERA to start the year across 2 starts. So it's a very 17 strikeouts, 11 innings. Offensively, I have my questions, but this is pretty much true every season. As long as Corey Seager stays healthy, he's an MVP candidate, if healthy.
Yeah.
And he's healthy right now. So as long as Corey Seager is healthy, I'm a believer in the Rangers. Iggy, what about you?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in them. I think I'm really excited to see, kind of like you said, how some of the youngsters continue to develop, like Wyatt Langford and Jack Leiter. Big fan of their rotation, especially with like the addition of Mackenzie Gore. Like, I think Eovaldi will bounce back. DeGrom has already had a little bit of some injury issues, but he's back on the mound. But I think that is going to be the biggest thing in terms of their success. As with any team, like, it's obvious, just health. But I think especially with the top 2 guys that they have in their rotation outside of Gore, they're on the older side. And we've just obviously seen injuries with both of those guys consistently throughout their career, not as of late, but I think that's going to be the biggest part of the Rangers' success, as well as Seager being able to stay on the field, just to keep everybody all together and continuing the momentum throughout the season.
And you, Spence, thoughts on the Rangers?
Absolutely a believer in the Rangers.
Wow,
I watched them a
we
lot.
are all believers.
Yeah, they're a good team, I think. Their rotation is very fun. Jack Leiter is going to get Cy Young votes. I'm going to keep saying that. Kumar Rocker, I'm going to keep believing in leaving him until he gives me a reason not to. He's got too much talent to just not turn into the dude that he was drafted to be. And then this offense, they struggle more than I feel like they should, but they're like Evan Carter and Josh Young, like these guys have taken steps back over the past few years, but like there's still talent in there, and that whole lineup, it can still bang when they start banging. And like, you got nobody even says Jock Peterson anymore, and like he's been awful to start the year, and I hope he can get back on track. But he's past couple years for him has been pretty rough, but they've still got the names in the lineup, in the rotation, got some dudes in the bullpen. They're a good team.
I remember the Rangers won the World Series, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, they won the World Series. They haven't even brought up Wyatt Langford, who was the number 2 overall prospect at the time. Oh, Evan Carter, they brought up basically when their playoff run started. He was 20 years old at the time. But to your point, Josh Young was a rookie at the time. But to your point, it's like these young kids that we were so elated to find out what they were going to become. For whatever reason, just haven't quite met those expectations. But
Yeah.
a lot of X factors offensively for the Texas Rangers. All right, friends. We were planning on taking a commercial break, but you know what? We're running short on time, so we're just going to get right into the game. No commercials. Woo! Everybody loves no commercials. Last week, we're kind of calling it our Stump the Spence because if you've been listening to this show the last few weeks, this guy knows ball. So instead of Stump the Schwab, we've been kind of calling it Stump the Spence. Last week, Spencer put Corey through the ringer. Just complete domination on Spencer's end. So we're going to run it back this week. Now, we bring in a Red Sox ball knower. So last week, it was a Yankee guy. Now it's a Red Sox guy. Let's see if Iggy, let's see if you can stump the Spence. The game we play today is which team is this player on? A lot of them are MLB veterans. You're going to know the names. Now, a lot of these players have also switched teams quite a bit, especially recently, or under the radar in 2026. Now, we'll start with you, Spencer, since you are the reigning champ. Actually, we'll make you the home team. How about that? We'll make you the home team. You deserve that honor. We'll start with you, Iggy. Which team is Starling Marte playing for in 2026? I love how
Cardinals?
I don't ever play the game because I don't want to make, I don't want to hit on my credibility here. That's why I make
I think I'm
everybody else
wrong.
play the game.
Yeah, I think I'm wrong.
What was it?
I think it's the Cardinals, but I think I'm wrong.
Steal?
I'm blanking.
You cannot steal, but you can play.
The Royals?
Go ahead. Boom! Royals. Kansas City Royals, Starling Marte. All right, Spencer, over to you. Adam Frazier.
Oh, I just saw him in the lineup somewhere.
Oh, did
I
I
was like,
stump the Spence?
I literally just saw him playing. And I was like, why is he still getting contracts?
He's a former batting title champ.
15 years ago. Dude, where did he? I don't know. I don't remember where he signed.
Oh, I feel so proud of this one. Like, if I could stump you, I feel like I
I
could
just
stump
saw
anyone.
him on the field.
I guess he never actually won a batting title. He was on pace for it when he was with Pittsburgh at one point. He was an all-star, though, in 2021. Would you like to care to take a guess?
No, I don't. I can't think of. I can picture his face and like where he was just playing like 2 days ago.
Los Angeles Angels.
Oh, that's why.
All right. 0
That makes
points
so
on
much
the board.
sense.
Round 2, Iggy. Who is Miles Michaelis playing for?
Dude. I'm gonna be bad at this. Yeah, I don't know.
Spence.
I don't know.
He just got the shit kicked out of him by the Dodgers. He's on the Nats.
Yeah. I remember seeing the signing, but damn.
Yeah, he
All
got
right.
like 5 homers.
Martin Perez, former All-Star with the Rangers. Who is he playing for in 2026?
I want to say the Padres, and I feel like that's wrong.
He was with the Padres a couple of years ago. He is
Yeah.
now currently with the Atlanta Braves. Oh my
that's
gosh, I
right.
feel so proud of this list. I'm fired up. Iggy, who's Eric Fetty playing for?
Still in the White Sox?
Yes, we have a point on the board. Eric Fetty.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Spence, to tie it up, who is Jordan Romano playing for? Former All-Star closer with the Blue Jays, now currently with whom?
Oh, he was just in the pen for the. Where did Jordan Romano go? Oh, this is bad. I am lost again. I just saw him pitching. He was just on the Phillies, and that's the only team I can think of right now.
He was
Is he
on
on
the
the
Phillies
Angels?
last year. Yeah.
Is he on the
Boom,
Angels too?
Angel.
Yeah.
He's on the Angels this
All
year.
right, you can't just keep giving me Angels. That's not fair.
Oh, it's totally fair. I got to pull out all the stops. to
I
beat
see
you on
if
this
there's
one.
just random veterans, it's got to be on the Angels.
Yeah, or White Sox this year. Or the Braves surprisingly have like a good amount this year too. All right, back over to you, Iggy. You are up 1-0. Who is Kyle Farmer playing for? This one was, I mean, we're really getting in the weeds here. Like, I had no idea who Kyle Farmer.
Yeah, I
mean,
know
Kyle
he was on the
Farmer's
Rockies last year.
What? Yes.
Just throw a random guess out there. Mariners.
Spence, you want to take a guess?
I think he's back on the Padres.
He's on Atlanta.
He's on Atlanta?
He's on the Braves.
Oh.
Indeed.
They're dumpster diving. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The Braves has some randoms. All right. Iggy still leads 1-0. Spence to tie it up. Nick Martinez. Padre legend.
Oh, he went to the Rays.
Yes, indeed. Oh, we got a tie ball game going into the final round. Iggy, put the pressure on Spence. Victor Caratini.
Oof.
Do you not know your backup catchers? Come on.
Nationals.
Such a great guess. Like, it looks like he would play for the Nationals, but it is incorrect. Minnesota Twins.
That makes sense.
To win the game, Ramon Urias.
Oh, Cardinals.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's
Incredible.
crazy.
Incredible. Well, Spencer
Don't
does
know
it
why I know
again.
that.
He does it again. Not as dominant this time,
No.
though. I'm very proud of my line of
Put up a fight.
questioning. I just know
There we
I
go.
have to bring my A game to stump the Spence. And, Jake lost, but I think I won. I think I did. I think I win this one.
You take
Yeah,
all the
good
misses
list.
as your points, yeah.
I think you swung and missed as many times as Jorge Soler swung and missed on Reynaldo Lopez last night. Soler, he went after Lopez, but he swung and missed 4 times. I mean, Walt Weiss took him down, but Soler wasn't hitting it. He wasn't making contact anyways.
That always seems to happen, though, during the Brawls. Even during, Bryce Harper's, where he, threw the helmet at the pitcher, but it just, went the other way. And even I remember Joe Kelly, he had Tyler Austin, down on one knee, and, he still missed. I think it's just, the heat of the moment. It's yeah, I already know, when I get the fists up, you don't want to mess with me, but then it's, in real action, it comes at you fast.
Yeah. I wish there was maybe a little connection.
Well, we'll see if we can stump the Spence next week. You'll have to tune into the Wake and Rake podcast. Jake Ignaszewski, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your very, very late East Coast night. It was a pleasure having you on. This will not be the last, so thank you for joining.
Absolutely appreciate you having me on. Go Sox.
Spence, I will see you next week. Until next time, Wake and Rake podcast, Believe Network. Talk soon.